Hello, this is Roman from the Chess Video Guide channel, and today I'll be looking at some games that I played recently online that I thought are of some interest. These games all have had a pretty nice combination in them, so I'll be showing them one after the other, about 5 games. So this is a game I played yesterday against an international master, and here the game went in such a way that White just played knight g5, and this is hitting my pawn on h7 clearly. So I thought, well, I'll obviously just take on g5, and naturally then if White recaptures, then I'll be able to take back this rook, and I'll be just up a rook. So this seemed all nice, and I realized that there's a possibility of a capture on g7, but it didn't seem too bad. So I took it, and it's a blitz game, so you only get to think for a few seconds. And of course White plays rook takes. I have no choice. I have to take, because otherwise it's checkmate on h7. And here again, I'd like you to pause for a second and think, how should White continue? He basically could recapture with the bishop, then he's left with nothing, I think. White would just be down the rook. He could recapture with the queen, then the king might run away to f7, and again White is without immediate follow-up. Or White could look for something else, because he basically has this attack against the king, and my queen here is a little bit far away. So he probably have realized what White should do here, and he did play this move after a few seconds. So he played bishop to d4, and Black has no good way to defend. Temporarily, Black is up a full rook and a piece, and for example he could defend with the bishop, and he is still up a rook and a piece, but this attack is just too deadly. For example, in a line like this, White would be up 2 healthy pawns, the Black king is exposed, White's completely winning here. Still, this might have been my best chance, because the way the game went, it went even worse for me. So in the game, well, I went king back, and that is just losing immediately. So check. I have only one move, and then he gives this following up check, and I have to run to e8, and then the queen takes, and I'm busted here because I have to go here. And another very nice check. The bishop and the queen are trapping my king, and I have no other solution here other than giving up the queen, and this is obviously completely busted. The game ended pretty soon. I resigned, probably move later or something. There's no back rank because the White king still has an escape square. So that was pretty terrible. It's a bit of a compensation. Let's look at another game. Here I was playing with the white pieces, a 3-minute game. A little bit simpler, actually much simpler. Black just played knight to f6, so my queen now is under attack, but that is actually okay. The queen does not have to retreat. Instead, White has a much better option. If you think for a few seconds, you should be able to easily guess what White played. There is rook to f6. Bishop cannot take because of the pin, and after pawn takes, knight comes to f5, and this is inevitable checkmate. It's a bit trivial, but kind of nice nonetheless. Moving on to the next game. This is much more complicated and less trivial example. Here it's White's turn, and I was playing with the black pieces against the international master. So my last move was bishop to g7, defending against this check, and before that I played queen to a2, trying to exchange queens. If White exchanges queens, there isn't really much left for attacking in his position. So he does have a stronger follow-up here. I'd like you to think for a few seconds. I think you will maybe spot the idea, but maybe not, because this idea is not that trivial. It might not be the only solution in this position, but it seemed to me that it's very elegant and worth showing. So white probably has a lot of ways to win material here, but he went for what was a forced checkmate. So there's a lot of activity in the white pieces. Basically rook, knight, bishop, and queen are all looking at this black king. And to be fair, he does have several defenders. So it would seem that black should be able to maybe even defend against this attack. And maybe if he does defend, then possibly this pawn would run down the board, and there's a bit of hope for black that way. But there isn't after white's next move. So drum roll here, he goes ton, rook to h6. That is a very unexpected move, at least it was to me. So there's so many pins here. There's this pin, so the rook is immune to the bishop's capture. And there's also this pin all of a sudden. But the best part is that white's leaving the queen. So white's leaving here the queen unprotected, the bishop unprotected, and in a way you could even argue that this rook is kind of loose here. But all that is adding up to a deadly attack. And I didn't, with seconds on the clock here, I didn't quite figure out what to do. So I thought, well, he does get a few pieces for the queen, but it's worth a shot. So I grabbed the queen and was demonstrated this very elegant checkmate. So rook takes there, rook takes on g7. So I thought white just getting some material for the queen, but there is a checkmate that I did not expect at all. And this was quite a nice end to a game where my knight here on f2 just was left offside, using the soccer term, and the white pieces checkmated my king. It's a bit of a redemption. I'll show the next example where I was playing with the white pieces. Let's familiarize ourselves with the landscape here a little bit. Here white pieces are on the attack, but black's last move was knight to d5, and this rook here is loose. It doesn't actually have a good square to go to, and at the moment white is up 2 pawns, but of course if he drops the exchange, that wouldn't be very helpful. So white had to come up with the following tactic to rescue the rook, which is not too hard, but basically still needs to be found. And there's a bit of a fine detail to this combination. So white went rook to g6, forcing the recapture. The idea that then he can play this, and if black just retreats with the king, the rook falls, the knight falls. This is not what black wants. So he has to give up the exchange back, and it seems like that maybe, just maybe, after white takes, black takes back on e5, he is alive, he's only down a pawn. This could be defended, his pieces are nicely centralized, but white has a nice follow-up, and it is queen to g3. The idea of this is that black does not have the option of rook to g5, because then the queen falls. So some nice geometry here at play. Basically white keeps this e5 pawn, or exposes the black king further, and after the king retreated, the pawn recaptured on e5, and here white's up 2 pawns. Black really has very little counterplay. This is winning, and white won the game fairly soon. And I think the last example here is white to move. Again, there's a bit of a backlash from black. He's attacking the knight here. Let's see, black's up a pawn, so white could recapture on here and defend the knight. Probably wouldn't be very good because of rook d8. But white wants to capitalize on this very active placement of the knight here, and somewhat active attacking placement of the rook and the queen. So here I noticed that white can play the following move, knight to h6. This works quite well because after recapture, white goes rook to g4, winning the queen, and the point is that, well, if he goes bishop to g7, I just recapture, and the bishop is still pinned. So white's winning here completely, extra material, the pawns fall off, and white won this game fairly quickly from here. So I hope this shows that it's quite interesting to look at the blitz games or online games, even if those are played with the slower time controls, and just look for combinations that you or your opponent played, because those turn out to be sometimes just as elegant as the ones in the over-the-board games, and there's a lot of aesthetic pleasure and just general chess learning that can happen while looking at the tactics played in the online games. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.